Okay everybody, before we do start the video, I do want to clarify one thing.
So, listen.
Please be sure to watch the video all the way through before going down and saying something in the comments.
Okay.
I really think if you guys watch the video all the way through, you will fully understand my perspective on the situation and the conclusion I came through. If at the end of the video, you guys have something you want to say, please do. Leave a comment if you disagree with me. I am more than happy to talk about it. Let's just make sure it all maintains civil.
Civil, huh?
And respectful.
Please be respectful. Now,
further ado, please do enjoy the video essay. To start off this video, I want to be very clear that the views held or expressed in the clips we're going to be playing do not necessarily reflect mine or my channel's. Now, for those of you who don't know about the Anthony Mackie controversy, he was asked what are Captain America's connections to America and what does he represent, and this is what he said.
For me, Captain America represents a lot of different things, and I don't think the term, America should be one of those representations. Like a man who keeps his word, who has honor, dignity, and integrity. Someone who is trustworthy and dependable. This is kind of like an aspect of a dream coming true. When I was a kid, all of us as actors, I believe, want to get back to that day before someone told you no. When you look out your door and you see a 5-year-old kid with a stick and he's slaying dragons to save the princess in the tower, that kid really believes there are dragons out there. That stick is really a sword and he's really trying to save that princess. And then one day somebody told him, no, there are no dragons, that's not a sword, and that princess is not there. And all of his little dreams were dashed. So, as an actor, I feel like our job is to get back to the day where we see that dragon and we slay that dragon to save that princess. And that's kind of what this movie was for me.
Now, his answer to this question upset a large majority of the fan base, and understandably so. When you listen to just what he said in that clip, it's completely understandable why some of the fan base would be upset. I won't lie, I was one of those people that was very upset about his comments. The idea of Captain America being played by an actor who doesn't think that the character represents America or American values deeply upset me, as it sounds as though Anthony Mackie is saying that the character literally named Captain America doesn't represent America. Instead, he goes on to bring up values like honor, dignity, and integrity, as though those are not virtues or values that we Americans hold. So I went to the internet, as you do, to see what other people think about Mr. Mackie's comments, as well as find any articles related to this viral clip of Anthony Mackie's comment. The majority of YouTube commentators were negative on the comments made by our new Captain America. The first video I went to watch was by a YouTuber called Mr. Grizzy.
But fear not, Anthony, because the woke pro-Disney MCU shills have your back on this, and claim that it's the fans who are out of line if they have a problem with these comments.
Anthony Mackie said the term America is not what Captain America represents. And he's right. It doesn't.
And if you tie an entire nation's identity to one individual, that says a lot more about you and your ideologies than that person.
The right wing was like, ooh, we got ourselves a black man saying negative things about the country. Ooh, I can't wait to comment on this. MAGA sharpen their knives. Whoa!
everybody just relax.
They love nothing more than a person of color or a black person saying anything negative, or possibly saying anything negative about America.
Yes, and right on cue, we gotta turn this into a race issue. People's problem isn't with what Mackie said, it's the fact that he's a black man saying it. Even though these same people have ripped actors like Mark Ruffalo and Mark Hamill in the past for political statements they've made. Nope, you're just a terrible person if you have a problem with these comments. Captain America is a patriot who loves his country. It's a huge part of his character. I mean, look at the lengths he went in the first movie just to serve in the military. And what Anthony Mackie should have said was something along the lines of, Captain America doesn't just represent America, he also represents honor, dignity, and integrity. And I think that would have been just fine. But these woke freaks hate the idea of Captain America representing America.
Now, the clip you just watched was the video that made me realize the majority of YouTubers were making this a political issue. And I don't personally believe anything Anthony Mackie said has anything to do with politics, but everything to do with what a character represents. So while I agree with Mr. Grizzy that Anthony Mackie would have been better off saying something like, Captain America doesn't just represent America, he also represents honor, dignity, and integrity. I also agree with what he had to say about some of the other movie YouTubers' reactions to Mr. Mackie's comments, especially the ones making this about race or that the only people upset about it are MAGA supporters. Before moving on, I do have one thing to say about, or rather two, those YouTubers who said these things like John Roca. Just because there are people who felt offended or upset by what Mackie said has nothing to do with his skin color. Although I know it's all people like you like to focus on, the majority of us actually listened to what Mackie had to say and took issue with that. Not because he's black or because we're all MAGA supporters, but because we're Americans who just heard Captain America say that the character doesn't represent America. Now let's move on. The next video we're going to be watching and talking about comes from Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire.
Now, pretty much every time we've talked about Disney lately, it's been hard not to wonder whether they're intentionally sabotaging their own brand for some unknown reason. And that might sound like a crazy conspiracy theory, but ask yourself this. When was the last time that the spokeswoman for a major company told half of the company's customers that they should suffer in pain for the rest of their lives and never know peace? And then after the spokeswoman delivers that message as explicitly as she possibly can, the company doesn't fire that spokeswoman for or publicly repudiate her in any way. In fact, they keep paying her. That's basically how bad things have gotten at Disney. The actress Rachel Zegler wrote a whole post about how Trump supporters should basically burn in hell. And on top of that, for good measure, she declared that Snow White, the movie she's doing a remake of, is a terrible and misogynistic story. So to fix that, they need to have a new girl boss, main character who treats the dwarves like they're her slaves. And at no point in this process is she fired. And you have to wonder, what kind of company would operate like that? I mean, if it didn't deliberately want to tank its own reputation. Maybe that's not Disney's ultimate goal. I've seen some people suggest that maybe Disney only intends to tank specific projects, the ones that it knows in advance are going to do poorly. So, for example, they know that Snow White is going to bomb, so they encourage Zegler to torpedo the whole thing with politics. And that way, when everything collapses, they can blame Trump supporters instead of their own incompetence.
Now, I particularly agree with what he said at the beginning there, that whenever someone like Rachel Zegler opens her mouth saying things like she wishes more than half the country would never know peace, such as Trump supporters, and people who voted for Trump, and then having their movie bomb in the box office, she's quick to blame the very people she attacked. But I don't think what Mackie said comes even remotely close to the comments made by Rachel Zegler.
And of course, it gets even worse when you consider the fact that Captain America's costume is the American flag, and he was created specifically to promote American ideals ahead of World War II. According to Wikipedia, which is the extent of my knowledge of Captain America, the very first Captain America comic has him punching Hitler in the face on the front cover, which is about as explicit a message as you can possibly get. But somehow Anthony Mackie, who's playing Captain America, missed it. In his years of preparation for this role, this managed to escape him. And then he explains what, in his view, Captain America is all about. He says, when you look out your door and you see a 5-year-old kid with a stick and he's slaying dragons to save the princess in the tower, that kid really believes there are dragons out there, that the stick is really a sword, and he's really trying to save that princess. And then one day someone told him, no, there are no dragons, that's not a sword, and that princess is not there, and all of his little dreams are dashed. So as an actor, I feel like our job is to get back to the day where we could see the dragon and slay the dragon and save the princess, and that's kind of what this movie was for me. Now, if you went back in time and showed that quote to Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, the two guys who, according to Wikipedia, created Captain America, you have to imagine they'd be a little bit confused. It's such an incoherent, rambling response that it almost defies comprehension. It's as if he's doing everything he possibly can to avoid talking about Captain America. He appears to be talking about how he wants to go back to being a child, where he apparently believed at the age of 5 years old that he was slaying actual dragons with a stick in his yard. And then he suffered a traumatizing experience when someone informed him that there were no actual dragons in his backyard. And his whole acting career has been an extended effort to undo that psychological trauma. Now, from some other reporting, it seems like he really wanted to play Spider-Man a few years ago, but he ended up with this. But it's all the same to Anthony Mackie. Whatever role he gets, he'll find a way to tie it back somehow to his childhood fantasies. And that's what this movie is all about, in his view.
Now, he is correct when he said that Captain America was created to promote American ideals during the height of World War II. And the very first issue of Captain America does have Cap punching Hitler in the face. This is the era that Captain America was created in, and it makes sense that he was created to promote the American traditions and ideals at that time. I also agree that what Mackie said after the primary comment that set the internet ablaze was a strange pivot and came across as a purposeful pivot, as though he realized that what he just said is going to upset a lot of people. Most of what he said about the little boy holding the stick to slay the dragon and save the princess did just feel like word salad and nothing to do with the question he was asked. However, I disagree with Matt Walsh for belittling Anthony Mackie for this pivot, and I don't believe that he pivoted to avoid talking about Captain America. Our last video we'll be looking at is from another, former Daily Wire YouTuber, Brett Cooper.
That does not sound great. So basically what we got from that is that the beloved Captain America represents a lot of things, a lot of objectively good values, but America, the term, is not one of them. Got it. You know, I guess that we do not represent integrity and trustworthiness and always doing the right thing and honesty, not America. In Anthony Mackie's mind. People on X and on TikTok, they lost their damn minds. There were clips of this going viral. I mean, mega viral. And it immediately sparked a debate between the left and the right, because the right was angry because it felt like he was crapping on America and he was saying that we do not have good values and that he didn't want Captain America to be linked in with our, great country. And people on the left were immediately pushing back and going, no, it's like an awful country. We just elected Trump. Why would he want it to represent Captain America? All this stuff. We all just started freaking fighting per usual.
Now, I know what you're thinking, that I'm somehow trying to shove Daily Wire or their views down your throats. I assure you that I am not. In fact, what Brett Cooper says on the subject, I found to be the most compelling, fair, and accurate account of Mackie's comments in the viral clips. One of the first things she brought up in the video, as you saw, was how this brought up a major conflict on social media, spaces such as X and Threads, and as you can see on screen here are some of those comments on X about Mackie's viral clip. But I'll let Brett show you some of the headlines about this situation around Mackie's comments.
One headline reads, Captain America fans defend Anthony Mackie from Trump supporters. He is right. I also just think it's hysterical that anybody who defends America as a country and our founding beliefs is automatically labeled a Trump supporter. Like, these accounts that were commenting these things, they did not have like MAGA in their bio. It was tons of different people. But of course, the mainstream media is like, Trump supporters, they love the country. You must be, oh God, it's like so old at this point. Like, please find a new narrative.
Not trying to repeat myself from what I had to say about Matt Walsh's video, but it is ridiculous that every time someone gets offended by comments like Mackie's, they're automatically labeled Trump supporters. And I agree with Brett, this is getting very old and ridiculous in 2025. Please do find something new to attack us with, because that one is way overused and almost laughable anymore. Now, this is where Brett began to change my perspective on Anthony Mackie's comments, bringing up where those online were bringing up the history of the character Captain America and that Anthony Mackie might not be entirely wrong. Now, what she said there is true. Chris Evans, Steve Rogers himself said something very similar. This isn't a flag-waving movie. It is red, white, and blue, but it just so happens that the character here was created in America during wartime, when there was a common enemy. Even though it is Captain America, I've said before in interviews, it feels more like he should be just called Captain Good. You know, he was created at a time when there was this undeniable evil, and this guy was kind of created to fight that evil. I think that everyone could agree that Nazis were bad, and he, Cap, just so happens to wear the red, white, and blue. And it's here where I agree with Brett. Captain America isn't just a symbol for Americans to look up to. and to aspire to be like. He's a character whose virtues and values are those that people all over the world can hold and relate to. Now, if you go back even further, you can find this in the comics, and I'll let Brett read it to you for me.
And as even more people pointed out, if you go back even further in history of Captain America, this is what is actually said in the Captain America comics. This is the comic right here, but I'll read it to you. He says, "Listen to me, all of you out there. You were told by this man, your hero, that America is the greatest country in the world. He told you that Americans were the greatest people, that America could be refined like silver, could have the impurities hammered out of it and shine more brightly. He went on about how precious America was and how you needed to make sure it remained great. And he told you that anything was justified to preserve that pearl of the great price that is America. Well, I say that America is nothing. Without its ideals, its commitment to the freedom of all men, America is a piece of trash. A nation is nothing. A flag is a piece of cloth. I fought Adolf Hitler not because America was great, but because it was fragile. I knew that liberty could be easily snuffed out here as in Nazi Germany, as people were no different than them. When I returned, I saw that you nearly did turn America into nothing." I mean, this is deep for a comic. This is a lot more nuanced than Anthony Mackie was in his little quip. It's a lot deeper than what Chris Evans was trying to communicate, but you can kind of connect the dots on what they were basing their responses on based on the history of this character and what he said in the comics and what he has done in all these other movies. I especially love this last paragraph where it talks about America being fragile. I mean, that's something that we have discussed consistently over the last couple of years. The driving force with getting someone like Trump back in office so that he could steer us onto the right track because we are so fragile, because we have seen our country be almost destroyed. And we could not let that happen. We are not immune to tyranny. We are not immune to terrible ideas and victimhood and bad ideology and communism. We have gotten so close to having that here, which is why we have to fight for the ideals that this country was founded on. And while I agree with that second paragraph, I do kind of disagree with the first paragraph where he says that America can't be great, that it cannot be fixed and have the blemishes removed. I do believe that we can get to that point. I think that we are certainly on our way right now. This is a discussion about what it means to have ideals and beliefs and values that drive the foundation of a country, and what happens when those ideals get forgotten and trampled out, and what it means to fight to get that back and to have a love of country and a love of ideals, but maybe not love where we are right now. And I think it's ideologically wrong for people to get angry at somebody saying that America isn't perfect or that they don't love America right now, because we've done that. Like, obviously people on the left are going to be unhappy with what is happening in Trump's America. They're going to be angry and afraid. I've tried to address that and quell some of those fears. But it's dishonest to say that we haven't done that. I've certainly done that over the last 4 years. Like, this country's doomed. Authoritarianism. Biden, he's running it into the ground. And while there's a difference between criticizing the current state of America and what's going on and criticizing its ideals, I really don't think Anthony Mackie was concerning himself with clarifying anything or having any nuance. And I noticed that some of the people who were pushing back weren't necessarily wrong. And these were not the finger waggers and the pointers and the people who were making it a right versus left thing. They were just talking about Captain America in general and the history. And to their point, Anthony Mackie might not be entirely wrong either, because this is not really a new take on Captain America. It's not that Captain America rejects America entirely, but it is that he is bigger than just one country, which is exactly what Chris Evans said back in 2011. So again, he's saying, not a patriotic movie, not a America movie, but it's a movie about aspirational ideals and objective good. And this person is supposed to embody these ideals that could be relatable to any individual, should be aspirational to somebody, no matter what country you live in. No matter what your background is, you should be able to see the good in this superhero. It's like, I'm sorry, but he's an actor doing a press tour. I don't really think he's thought about this very deeply. And so it might not be all Anthony Mackie's fault. Like, I genuinely do not even know if he knew what he was trying to say, especially when you hear what he said after the end of that quote.
And as Brett points out, I don't think Anthony Mackie fully knew what he was trying to say, given what he said at the end of the viral clip. This is an actor who's been on a press tour to promote his upcoming movie and is probably very tired by the time he got to this press event, and probably wasn't fully prepared to engage with enduring another press conference. To wrap this up, because this video is getting very long, I don't believe that what Anthony Mackie said during this press conference was meant in the way everybody took it, no matter which side of the discussion you land on. Now, later, Mackie did release a follow-up post saying this. Let me be clear about this. I'm a proud American, and taking on the shield of a hero like Cap is the honor of a lifetime. I have the utmost respect for those who serve and have served our country. Cap has universal characteristics that people all over the world can relate to. I'll be honest, while writing this, I'm having a hard time thinking of what to say to wrap up this video. So I'll try to keep this brief and to the point. Please, everybody, don't take every little thing an actor says while on a press tour to promote their upcoming movie and blow it out of proportion. The majority of them just want to promote their movie, and the last thing they want is to say or do something that can damage their image or the movie's potential success. Now, at the time of writing this, Captain America Brave New World has already hit theaters to mostly negative reviews. Captain America is actually now sitting at a 48% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I genuinely do hope that this is because the movie itself is bad and not because of a bunch of people boycotted it due to Mackie's comments. I believe that this was all blown way out of proportion, and that what he meant by that comment was that Captain America represents virtues and values that are universal to people all over the world, not to people just in America. And as we talked about earlier, Captain America was created during the height of World War II to help the effort at home to inspire young boys and girls while giving them traditional American values they could relate and aspire to. So thanks to Miss Brett Cooper for giving me a more honest and fair take on the situation, which was able to change my perspective on the situation. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I was one of those that was very upset by the comments made by Mackie in that viral clip. But after doing my own research and listening to these YouTubers, I was able to get a more diverse understanding on all of it and change my opinion on the matter, which I wish more of us would be open-minded enough to and willing to do the same. Thank you all so much for watching, and thank you, Wise, for editing this one. I know this had to be a pain to edit. And I just want everyone to know how much work this video was to make. So be sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, and click that bell to be notified on future videos like this one. And leave a comment. Let me know what you all think about the Anthony Mackie controversy. And also a big shout out to all of the YouTubers whose videos I used in this video essay. Links to their full videos will be in the description. Until next time, this is Mickey and Mole signing out.